We're one game into the 2012 season, joined today by Tom Mulhern and Tom Oates. I'm Adam Mertz of the Wisconsin State Journal. I want to talk to you guys a little bit after watching the Badgers play against Northern Iowa on Saturday. Big picture, where do you feel this team is in terms of what you came into the season thinking they might get done, positive or negative? Mully, we'll start with you.
Well, I think they got some issues that need addressing, and they need addressing quickly, and I think the majority of those are on defense. And I think the disconcerting thing for them right now is the same problems have cropped up from last year despite an entire offseason of emphasizing it. And they got beat on some big plays, on really routine plays that had no reason for assignment breakdowns. Played 2.5 really good quarters, as the defensive coordinator Chris Ash said yesterday, 42 really good minutes and 18 terrible minutes. So that's something that's got to get fixed in a hurry, and I think the concern is that it keeps going on.
I mean, the crazy thing is you look up at the scoreboard midway through the third quarter, I think Northern had 57 yards of offense. I mean, they were getting shut down pretty consistently, and it just turned like that.
Yeah, I think, you need to guard against making great sweeping assertions about a team after one game. I think Mully's right. I think this team found out something about itself where it needs to improve, and to me, as I look at the offense, the positive development was Danny O'Brien. I mean, I don't know how. I think they were conservative with him early. The way he handles himself, to me, he handled himself in the game like I saw him in the few practices we got to watch. He handled himself similarly in the game, just in complete control. I don't think they needed to be conservative with him, and I'm guessing they won't be down the line because he's just very alert, aware quarterback, and who's made 17 college starts, and it's now 18, and it shows. It shows.
They better not be conservative because they need to score more points offensively.
Yeah, and part of that is the running game, and if there is a concern on offense coming out of that game, I didn't think the blocking was particularly good. There were a lot of plus one, 0 or minus 1 yard rushes, too many of those. There were a few 7, 6, 7, 8 yard runs that probably should have been 15, 20 yard runs. And they just didn't, I don't think they finished their blocks. They didn't get a whole lot of push. Now, Northern really crowded the line of scrimmage, which is why I think Wisconsin's conservative approach hurt it early, because there was a lot there if they had been more daring on offense. But I understand why they took the conservative approach, because they wanted Danny O'Brien to get his feet wet.
Well, you can see. Go ahead.
Monte Ball's average per carry 3.8, his lowest last season 4.6, and there were only one game under 5 all last season.
As you pointed out, there are 4 negative yard carries for him, 2 no gains. There was a lot of tough yardage in there. As you said, though, a lot of that is the game plan, and I thought I got to give credit to Northern there for basically daring the Badgers. They knew that they were probably going to come out a little conservative and try to work Danny in that way.
Well, Wisconsin's made a living offensively in recent years, beating that kind of defense. And like I said, I think they went in fairly conservative on offense because Danny O'Brien was making his first start. And there was probably a lot more there that they didn't even attempt to exploit, and I think that will change in the games ahead.
And the good news going forward, I think the 3 passes that O'Brien attempted of 20-plus, he completed all 3, I believe. And one of them was short of that, and I think Jordan Frederick ran it for a 20-yard gain. So I think he can do it. He's got the arm strength, and Oates's right. Play action's a huge part of this offense. I mean, you've got to be good with play action. And, he had Aberderis wide open behind the defense and really put a nice ball there, so I think that's a good sign going forward.
I mean, there's a lot of new pieces that they had as well. How much do you think that is kind of getting that comfort zone, with can get into the whole coaching aspect too, but even the new starters they had out there?
Well, they had a fair number of new starters on both sides of the ball, and I think that's, if anything, is where you might see some improvement from game 1. Coaches always talk about you're much better in game 2 than you are in game 1, and if you're gonna see that out of this team, I think it's going to be coming on a lot of the new starters. Now they've got their feet wet now. They've played at Camp Randall. They've played against a decent college team, and that was a pretty good FCS team. I don't think anybody will argue that. And so they got their feet wet. It'd be interesting to see what kind of leap they make this week.
And it's an experienced defense, so I think there's some disappointment that some of your most experienced players were having some breakdowns, but they have 2 guys returning from injuries in David Gilbert and Devin Smith, who didn't play much last year. So I think there's a definite rust factor with those 2 guys, so that's something else to chart, is how they improve.
You talk about the improvement from week 1 to week 2. Oregon State doesn't have that advantage because their game at Nicholls State got called off last week when the Louisiana school couldn't get out to Oregon and couldn't practice, and so they just postponed that game. Is it an advantage, disadvantage, do you think, for the Badgers?
Well, we've heard from Bielema about 100 times already that a good team makes a big jump from game 1 to game 2. The counter side of that is that Wisconsin doesn't have film and know what Oregon State's going to do, but I don't buy that that's an even push like Bielema has claimed. And the big thing is that they know Oregon State's offense. It's Mike Riley, it's Paul Chryst. They've gone against this offense in practice, so I don't think there's going to be a lot of surprises with what Mike Riley does. So to me, it's a huge advantage for Wisconsin playing their second game.
I'm not sure. I think football coaches are creatures of habit, and their habit is to be able to look at film, devise a game plan, and they don't really have film of this team. Now they have film of this team from last year. They even played this team from last year, so they have a lot of film of this team. But they don't know what Oregon State's been working on. They don't know what the new guys bring to the table. I think it's a significant disadvantage not to have any game film.
We'll be talking about these issues and more all week in the Wisconsin State Journal and on madison.com.